All right, welcome back, everybody, to the verdigris table. There are many Matts in the world, but only one best Matt. You've seen them on Tales of Initiative and all over the place. Matt, where can people find you on the internets?
Just like you said, you can find me at Tales of Initiative, specifically on Twitch Tales _of _initiative. We also have a YouTube channel where we upload all of our VODs, and you can find the work I'm doing personally as a TTRPG designer. You can get D&D 5e adventure modules, subclasses. You can get one-page TTRPGs. You can get supplements for Cyborg and TSL and all these other kinds of systems over at my website, day20.org. There's all kinds of stuff up there, including other projects that I've worked on that aren't under that label. So go check it out if you are looking for new TTRPG content, new ways to play the same games you already love.
Boo, love it. Some awesome stuff on there. Check out the website. Um, there are some play test experimentations going on
Mm-hmm.
a Discord. So
Yeah.
go poke around, kick over a rock. You're gonna discover some awesome stuff. Today we're gonna mess around with my thing. We're gonna play on the Game Master's Compendium of Explosive Creation. Blah!
Explosive!
Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, the burn away, like
Amazing.
right on the edge of cheesy. Hopefully on the right side of that line,
That's
but
that's where we like to live.
who knows? Yeah. All right, so this is system neutral. So it is like, kind of classic high fantasy. But we want to frame this as a D&D 5e or a Pathfinder 2e or Thirsty Sword Lesbians or whatever else, some
Sure.
ambiguous world between all of them. I am here for it. So this is all organized by archetype, essentially background in many systems. What kind of a character are we rolling up? Not class, but
Mm-hmm.
more thematically, narratively. So we can roll a D100, or if something jumps off the page at you, you're welcome to select it.
I will say that when I was looking at it, I loved Weirdo A being the highest number and just B being an option, but I'm going to embrace the chaos and go for some roll of
All
times.
right, roll a D100. Come on, we're rooting for 99.
I did get a 9, but it is not 99, it's a 19. Oh,
19.
charlatan.
Charlatan, similar. So I will say Weirdo was called many things, and I settled on Weirdo, so it was at the bot, so it was the 100.
Oh, it's alphabetical. Duh. Yeah.
It was also originally conceived as like a multiplier table, right? For the chance that like
Ooh.
charlatan, you roll up a character and like this is a little vanilla for my liking. All right, cool. 2x rounds, roll on the roll on the weirdo table as well, multi-class into weirdo essentially.
Nice.
So
Interesting.
that's on the table if we want to go that far. That's obviously a little more time intensive, but I'm gonna ask you to roll one of everything, not the D100
Okay.
actually, but D20, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Everybody's favorite.
Excellent. I was 12 is everyone's favorite. I'll take away the one D100, and then I've got my little set of like mini metallic dice. I'm just gonna.
Ooh.
Alrighty. So, any order you want me to read these
I'm
off
gonna ask you
in?
for the D20 first. This is our drive,
Okay.
dream, our aspiration. What's our character's motivation here?
That is going to be a 17.
17. Terror at the idea of simply being ordinary.
Okay, we're already playing my Wednesday character, and it's scaring me. Let's see. Let's see how far we get. That's
I'll allow it.
amazing.
Say more on that, because that's such a weird resonance. Like that made me feel feelings right away. Just like
Oh
this,
man.
this
Okay.
character's afraid of being ordinary, especially in a D&D context.
So, my character on Wednesdays is a changeling. That's why I mentioned changeling being one of my favorite ancestries. And they sort of grew up with a lot of expectations on them. Their parent was very like, you will do this, you will fit into this archetype, you will fulfill your purpose to the family, kind of things, in still a loving way. Like I don't want to like characterize it as a completely harsh environment, but that very like burned out gifted kid, kind of like high expectations, low emotional safety style thing.
Hey,
And
yeah, I know. Yeah.
I feel like
I hear you.
I might be hitting close to home for
Heard,
at
Chef.
least some people here in the audience or otherwise.
Hey, gifted
And
and talented children of the late 80s, early 90s, into the 2000s. How you doing?
and how you doing? And I feel seen. I'm in this picture and I don't like it. And eventually broke away from home, is out on their own. That's what inspires them to like, that's how they join into the campaign that we're playing on Wednesdays, is like that was their impetus for leaving, was to like, I'll make my own way, I'll figure out my own thing. And on top of this, on top of like the what I wanted to do is manifest that into like how it's one thing for a human to experience that. How does a changeling experience that? And my changeling has been taught how to specifically play this persona that they were supposed to be growing up in and inheriting. And now they feel like they can't do that. They're setting off on their own. And so now they don't have a concept of self distinct from I'm someone that's going to play that persona. And so now in their early teens, pre-campaign, they're going out into the world trying to figure out who the hell am I? Who's under this skin? What all these pieces of me, I like this, I don't like that. Are those even real, or are those things I inherited from my training to be this persona? And so it was this path of self-discovery. And one thing that they incorporated into that is like, okay, I'm going to invent a face that I can wear. It's not going to be me. It's going to be an attempt at me. But if it fails, that's okay because I've shielded myself behind that mask. And the mask's main rule, this other persona's main rule was when in doubt, be interesting.
Mm.
Do something that makes people glob onto you. But then it just turned into this vicious, toxic cycle of treating people as, disposable mirrors, things to either reject or incorporate into the self. And that idea of like, if a changeling doesn't know who they are just this biological mirror that's constantly breaking.
And it's like, how could they? Right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
as a changeling, like one, I went to high school with this kid. Two, two, like yeah, there's this Ben Folds line. This is a weird deep cut, but like this Ben Folds line, I don't even remember what song it is, but like, we gave you everything. You could have been anything. And then like the impossibility of living up to that, or even like the analysis paralysis. Like the world is your oyster. You can be anything because you're special. I don't know what the fuck to do now.
Yeah,
Like the
exactly. It's like,
infinite possibility shuts you down.
mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Um,
that when it said, terror at the of simply being ordinary, this idea of like of all the things I was meant to do, of all this infinite possibility, what I was meant to do was be boring. That is that immediately resonated with me for the purposes of my character Void slash Vix. But yeah, so that is that we're let's do a different character, but like that I immediately was like, oh God,
well, I will say that this is a very interesting exercise because this is conceived as like everybody uses this session zero. Let's build a new character, but like you could absolutely approach this with an established character that you're trying to like. I don't know. The season's over, right? Like the next
mm-hmm.
campaign arc is about to begin. I want to revisit something. Like I've closed a lot of loops. Like where else can we go with this, or how can I, maybe you have a bunch of numbers on a page that you're
Yeah,
trying to get
flesh
the
out a little
other
bit
half of
more.
that dimensionality into it.
Yeah.
All right, so D12, you were just speaking on how and why they like set out to become an adventurer. Let's see what this D12, everybody's favorite, gives us.
Catalyst and calls to adventure. That is going to be an 8.
8. Uh, heir apparent and hunted because of it. Is that I feel like we're ringing bells here.
I just have to laugh. The dice are being so interesting right now. Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Does that suit
Oh yeah, because they so the my one of my fellow cast members for a long time, she's huge into lore. Shout out to Taylor for being just an amazing co-conspirator. But she had this theory that my character Vic slash Void was a prince, was like noble, was like inheriting like a noble birthright, and that is not their inheritance, but they were heir apparent. They were the firstborn of the new generation that was meant to inherit whatever this mantle is from the family. So yeah, so far we're 2 for 2 on just this is Void.
what is Void's background? I could like charlatan and noble. There's a lot of overlap there. I get like Tom
I
Sawyer vibes of like I forget the Earl of Bridge.
Hmm.
Bilgewater, whatever that's a old memory, but
Yeah. Well, there's even that the character from Great Expectations that's like looks like he's a pauper prince, and then he's actually like a nobleman. Um, the
yeah, because like there's the opposite of that. There's the inversion of that character too,
mhm.
right? There's the prince and the pop. There's the pauper who's like, no, I'm really a prince. I also went to high school with that guy.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, the in terms of mechanics, like D&D 5e mechanics, Void's background is inheritor. And
oh,
so you
interesting.
you get an inheritance, and the inheritance is kind of twofold. So the inheritance, I use that background feature to justify they have a cool uh critical role vestiges of divergence style magic item that
Mm,
like is waking up and that they've like repaired because the family basically said, because I love a good like the consequences of arms races, the consequences of weaponry. So like there's that kind of throwaway line at the end of Batman Begins where it's like uh we buy body armor, they buy armor piercing rounds, like that escalation of violence that happens when you start policing criminals harder. And the inheritance is this gun, this mystical alien piece of weaponry that fell from the sky, or at least that's the legend behind it, that is like was sort of this like chosening of the original ancestor that did all of this stuff that Void is inheriting from. So their inheritance isn't just the persona, the thing that the family's been doing. It's also this weapon that for I think either 3 or 4 generations now has been mothballed. They stopped using it because they saw enemies being like, we should start using guns. And like they couldn't duplicate this one, but they did start making worse and worse things that they were like, we need to stop using this because it's a toothpaste tube situation. So they mothballed it, they put away, and Void was like, we need this back now. Like, why won't you let me? Like, if I'm the heir apparent, why can't you listen to me and let me do this thing? So they were like, screw you, screw that. I'm taking the gun and I'm leaving. So they stole it from their family and are now off in the winds doing their own things with it.
and I love the like double-edged sword, double-edged gun. Is that a thing? Double,
Yep.
double, but like the
Mm-hmm.
like yeah, one the like the arms race, Cold War kids escalation of it all, but also the I have this dope thing and that's dope and other people want it and that's a threat. That's
Yep.
I'm in danger now.
And we are actually seeing some of that bleed into the campaign. There's been this construct that regenerates. It's like a lich construct that keeps trying to hunt Void down. So we're seeing that consequence play out because I love consequences.
Yeah, I mean that's yeah. Karma is a plot engine. Uh,
Delicious.
um, this is very interesting. This I like the fact that I'm okay with the fact that this is void as long as you are. We can
I'm
we
I'm
need it.
totally okay with it. And what we can do is when it's not, because we've got several other tables to go through.
Oh, sure,
Now
sure,
we've
sure.
got now we've got a new character to invent.
Yeah, and I mean, and it could also be. I mean, void is a changeling. What the hell? Like,
True.
and this is the Charlotte. This is the fake version of a character essentially. So
Yeah.
this could be a character or a character's
Mm-hmm.
persona essentially.
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say on the topic of backgrounds, early on when we were like making our characters for the campaign, Charlatan was one of the first picks. I was originally gonna go Charlatan, and then I saw the Inheritor. I was like, this is truer to the story, I think.
And you can like I was just saying with the weirdo, like you can kind of multi-class into
Yeah.
backgrounds, like
Yeah.
steal what you like, find inspiration everywhere.
Mm-hmm. If you like it, put it in your game.
The D8 is potential growth and character arc. So this is stuff that like you hope comes up organically at the table because we're chasing down the consequences of choices and options. But if you have like some sort of even nebulous concept, you can kind of lean in to one direction to start and look for opportunities to go the other way.
Like that. And I
Um,
got on that D8, I got an 8.
8. From being protected by lies to honest vulnerability. That kind of feels like it harkens back to our earlier conversation on D20 questions when we were just starting out.
Yeah. Uh, this is very good. There's shades of Void's journey in this. A lot of what Void's been going. The reason I say it's Void slash Vix is they started the campaign with the name Vix, which is their birth name. But they're I don't know. Do you know how changelings do names in like the Everon lore?
I'm not as deep into Emerald. It's funny. There's a couple things I've siloed to play in, so I
Gotcha.
don't
So
do
you're
the
like, I
deep
don't want to
dive.
look at that.
Yeah,
I want to
and
be
Eberron
surprised.
is
Yeah, yeah.
in that pile.
So the way that changelings do their names is that there's a spoken part and then there is a non-spoken part that their body does in like a small subtle shift. So whenever Vix would say their name, they would darken their eyes to complete pitch black. Their full name for a changeling hearing it would be Vix with void in their eyes.
Hmm.
So there was this part in mid campaign that, or I say mid campaign, it was really like the episode's 30s, but now we're over 100. So it's first third of the campaign that basically Vix was having a really hard time being a persona anymore and like wearing that mask constantly. They were wanting to open up to this group and like they basically overstayed their welcome past the point of like, okay, I'm now either toxically lying to people I genuinely care about and I need to change myself or I need to leave. And so they decided to stay, reinvent themselves, or really take the mask off and really try and be a genuine person and figure out who really am I underneath all this stuff. So now they've started referring to themselves as void, as in the void that was inside Vic's eyes the whole time.
That's so interesting. I kind of like reversed that intuitively, or maybe not reversed it, because like Void was the realness, right? But like
Yes.
Void's the name, Vix is the thing on the top.
Yeah.
Um, because yeah, there's this I don't know the blank space between atoms that
Mm-hmm.
we're actually the whole time.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, I really like this answer just from a point of just any character. I like the idea. I'm a sucker for found family narratives. So
hmm,
like the idea of like when you're looking at the arcs of character growth, theoretically there's this pack of faces that they're always around. These people that they're forming connections with and bonds with, and maybe those bonds aren't perfect. They never will be, but at some point you stop lying to those bonds and you start being genuinely someone. So I like that this is part of the charlatan, specifically charlatan, someone who is used to, I'm always putting on a face. I am always lying. You don't know me, you know who I let you know. And then this being an area of growth and character arc, okay, I'm going to take my masks off for some of these people. I really, that's just a thing I'm a sucker for. It's why I've been doing it with Void. It's why I love seeing it. I feel like almost every, like, oh, he's the bad boy. Like, aren't we just waiting for to see the cinnamon bun on the inside? Like, that's just so classic and so like heartfelt because I feel like we're even if we're not all charlatans, we're all doing that to a little bit. We're all keeping parts of ourselves away from the surface.
yeah, that's why we play. That's why we play imaginary games so we can let them
Yeah,
out.
yeah. That's because therapists are expensive.
Yeah. Hey, everybody, try both. But
Yeah, yeah.
your dungeon master, not your therapist, not qualified or interested in helping you work your shit out at the table all of the time. Um, for my non-American friends out there, healthcare sucks here. D4, D4, friendly faction.
Friendly factions. Well, I read the name of it. Two.
You read the name of it before you knew it was two,
Yeah. Well,
or
sorry, I saw two, looked at the table, and I read the name, and I was like, "Oh, that sounds cool," but I didn't know what it was. The Velvet Venue.
what is that? Okay, cool. Also, a cool thing that you can do with any tool like this, but like, what does that autocomplete to? Because like, if you get an entry and
Mm-hmm.
like the impulse is like, oh, that's fine, but like, I wish it was this cool. It's doing its job. Go with that. So
Yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, did you
My
get a sense
immediate
of like?
instinct is like I'm picturing lounge chairs and smoking jackets and like a sort of like a flappers roaring 20s or like prohibition era like nightclub like speakeasy kind of thing where it's jazz lounge, there's music, smoke dims the air, all that kind of stuff.
Fucking perfect. Yeah, like crushed velour. Well, velvet, I guess. Yeah, right. Like everything's like
Yes, yeah,
red and
yeah.
purple, and
Those deep like wood tones, a little bit
yeah,
of gold here and there, but it's muted. Yeah.
smoky. It smells like gin very
Mm-hmm.
specifically. It's like there's
Yes.
some botanical
Mm-hmm.
note in this too strong alcohol.
And
Um,
it seems like it
Not bad.
matches
Pretty close.
tavern.
Tavern where con artists, fences, and brokers of secrets meet and mingle. Yeah, I like the
Yep.
speakeasy vibe of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. I
Um,
love. I'm a sucker for that aesthetic. It's not quite the same. It was a bit more of a dive bar, but Void did have like a place that they went as like a. It's basically like it is. I loved this. So I was like, there's a place like this go forth and prosper, GM, because like I want this place for my character. Like this is where they were when they were in the city, but I left a lot of the details to Dustin to fill in
Mm.
with like whatever he wanted to do with it, because it ended up being tied to like our Thieves Guild arc and stuff. It is a secret like tavern that is behind a like hidden door that's part of a bathtub in a pet like washery place called Shampoodles.
I love and hate that. I'll come back to that. Uh,
but it's a bit more of a dive bar. It's a bit more crusty. It's a bit more like low class. But it's the basic premise of it is it's a place where weirdos go to be themselves, and so Void could go and be an open changeling. And this is another like Eberron thing that I'm sort of stealing from there is that like a lot of the lore goes into changelings. Are you an open changeling? Do you shift all the time? Do people know you're a changeling? Do you act that way normally? Or are you a closed changeling? Do you kind of keep one face on, you act human, or you act whatever your normal face is, but then you'll use your changeling abilities if you have to, but you're always worried about being found out. Void grew up in an open
Metaphors.
metaphors. Oh, it's almost like a lot of things in our storytelling are queer coded. Um, Void grew up in an open changeling community. They could change all the time. They could be in their silver skin. They could just be free. And then weren't really sure about how that would be read elsewhere. And so they didn't completely close off, but it was nice to go to a place where just all the weirdos were and they could shift and bob and weave and do all this kind of stuff.
I like that a lot. And I really like what you said about like, hey DM, there's a place that's like this that exists in the world. That is exactly the level of like resolution I was looking for in making this of like, here's an idea that
Mm-hmm.
one, you can instantly be like, oh, this is a speakeasy. Like you can just lay on a shitload of details and like color in these like sketchy lines and literally color it.
Mm-hmm.
But two, keep it open-ended enough that like you can go to the DM or sit down in a collaborative session zero or whatever, just a text chain, a Discord
Mm-hmm.
conversation, and build the connective tissue to other people's backstories, especially is the good shit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the dungeon master has a world. I don't want to step on their toes. There's a bar where criminals hang out. Maybe it's called this. Maybe I just call it that.
Yeah.
Like,
I
I'm
I
flexible.
as a GM, I love getting those pitches from players. Like,
Mm,
tell me there's something that you want in the world, and I'll flesh it out. And it gives me it's like a roll table. It's like a roll table, but it came from a person. It's
yeah.
enough of a seed idea
Mm,
that I can now build that and incorporate it and root it in the world and like tie the plot into it and all these kinds of other things.
yeah. That's the name of the game. Okay, D6. We're gonna drill down to like a friendly, like an NPC, an ally, an asset.
Assets and
We know a guy.
allies.
This feels like the kind of guy that knows guys.
This is definitely a kind of guy that knows guys, especially hanging out in the Velvet venue. I love
Yeah.
that name. Uh, this is number 4.
Tansy Sabine. Young street urchin who knows many secrets of the city.
Cool.
That's an archetype. That's a
Yeah,
pretty blank slate. I
I
like
like
putting in
that.
like the little kid once in a while,
I
right?
love, yeah.
You gotta trust the table not to kill him or something. But just like I love just like this impoverished little girl comes up and like tugs on a waistcoat and it's like, "Can I play with your sword?" Like, I heard you
Hmm.
killed the dragon. Like,
Nice.
you want your guys to feel like heroes? Have a wide-eyed child look at them.
I love that. Okay, so we've been like, oh, this is accidentally void. Now I'm getting a new character from this one.
I'll
This
allow
one
it.
I've got this clear idea of like I'm picturing that velvet venue, the sort of suave people user, navigator of secrets, like someone that's like collecting information. They don't know what game they're playing yet, but they know that when they start playing that game, they want to win it, right? So they've sort of started building this entourage of usable people. And I feel like Tansy Sabine is like maybe they finally got like a big payday and they're like, yes, I got that watch that I really wanted, or like the pocket watch, or like some sort of like some little trinket on their body that is like, yes, this is a sign that I've made my first gig. Like maybe it was the first adventure, maybe it was the first big payday. And this little shit of a kid stole it. And it's already in the wind. It's gone. Like there's no getting it back. But a relationship has formed out of them now playing this like cat and mouse game that like dangerously peaks into them being genuine with each other and like trusting each other, but they're always being shitty enough to each other to make sure that they don't acknowledge how much they care about each other. And like Tansy will feed little information about the city that's going on. This character like feeds her a little bit of information or just coin and like makes sure that she knows like, oh hey, there's this big gala event. They're probably gonna have a lot of leftover food. Check out, check out the back kitchens or something like that. Like they're clearly forming a connection, and they're both trying to like make this city their own in some way. And I could almost see this like, this character, let's call this character Jack, because that's always what I call my shitheads before I give them a real name. Sorry to all Jacks out there. It just feels like a good like masculine villainous name. Like I'm Jack.
Well,
Um
that's also there's a very like changeling Fey like Jack. Like I like the concept of like Jack O' the Lantern, Jack O' the Woods.
mhm,
That's all. It's just one
mhm,
Fey semi godlike deity who's like occupying all of these roles. Who's like,
mhm.
don't trust him. He's not evil, but it
Yep.
ain't good. I don't know. Like,
Jack the Pumpkin King. Like
yeah,
it's like there's a resonance to that name that I don't know where it comes from, and I will never judge a real Jack by it. But God, there's a Jack that lives in my head, and he's a
yeah.
shithead. I
It's all
love
those
him.
consonants. It's all there's Jack. It's
Yeah,
like
it's
a
just too jagged.
yeah,
Um, but
pointy.
anyways, I like this. I'm getting this idea of like Jack wants this meteoric rise, wants to be in charge of something. Maybe it's a thieves guild. Maybe it's like literally claiming a throne or something. Wants to go up. And I think Tansy just wants to go sideways. Tansy just wants to like exist and know where her next meal's coming from and just wants to be a normal. So like that idea of like terror at simply being ordinary. Jack is trying to corrupt Tansy and like, don't be ordinary, be something bigger. And Tansy's just like, ordinary's fine.
Yeah, I strive for ordinary.
Yeah, or I'd like an ordinary day. An ordinary day would be a blessing. And just I think she's like kind of wailing the hammer on that nail that's driving into Jack's psyche. That's like disturbing. Maybe I don't need to aspire for everything. No, it's wrong. I need to aspire. Like I love like the closest connection he has right now, and the longest connection he has right now is currently telling him his ideals are shit without really doing that.
And that's their love language.
That is 100% their love language. Yeah.
Fuck. Okay, you have clearly awesome instincts here. So I think there's a possibility you did not realize the awesomeness of one thing you said in that, which is this
I did.
character. I don't know what game I'm playing. I just want to win.
Yeah.
That is such a encapsulation of a certain type of charlatan. Like
Hmm.
that could take you very far in a campaign. Um, yeah, I don't know what the game is. I just know I want to win it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a great, like, I think we can all see that ideal is just bound for failure. This is setting you up for horrible moments, but they're delicious. You love them. You want to see the horrible moments happen.
Yes, and not and it's a midlife crisis. Usually, like
Hmm.
I didn't choose this game, and I guess
Yeah.
am I winning? Like this is not satisfying. I don't think we have those anymore because or they you start a garden. No one's buying Ferraris anymore, or I don't know. Maybe that's what a Tesla is. Anyway, sorry to all the people who wanted to save the environment before that shit went sideways.
Hey,
Um,
this world is grays and neutrals. I own a Tesla. I also
oh,
am
I'm sorry.
very aware.
Yes.
No. I like it's fine. I love the car. I've got one of the first run Model 3s, and like it's great. I love it. I recognize that there's some awful shit happening. Like,
What do you do? I mean, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. I'm sorry. Like you can't just because I don't like
yeah,
this is a piece of paper that some like poor some
yeah,
enslaved child made. Like I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
what's going on. I can't be held responsible. Sorry, guys.
Hmm. Yeah. I've saved thousands of dollars on gasoline.
Um,
Like what to do in this broken world? What to do?
um, sorry about it. If we talk enough, I will stray into that territory.
That's all. Here's the edit this out if need be. Whatever.
Never.
I genuinely think I have no greater contempt for those in the middle that pretend that politics are not an everyday thing. if you look at politics as a thing that could be avoided, you are part of the problem so deeply and so irrevocably that I don't know if you're. I don't want to say you're beyond saving, but Jesus Christ, wake the fuck up! Like everything is political. Everything is.
I was really mad at those people. Well, fuck, what, 10 years ago now? I don't even know how long have we been. I mean, forever, I guess. But like, I am. I think they are. I mean, it comes from a place of privilege,
Yes.
100%, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and as a person who is like, I can turn off politics for months at a time. I am a
Mm-hmm.
cishet white dude. Like,
Yeah.
it's what I got problems. No, but like, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't touch me, but touches people I love, touches people I care about. Some of them live in this house. But the the it doesn't matter what I do, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of that, some people don't give a shit. They just want to get theirs. I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of people who feel that there is no lever for them to pull to have any sort of impact on the way the world is, and therefore have checked out.
Yep.
And I am sympathetic to that one that lives inside me too. And two, that's a strategy that was enacted upon them. They were convinced
Yes.
of that by people who don't want them pushing their fucking buttons
Mm-hmm.
because they're happy with the power. So like I'm not as angry anymore.
Yeah.
I understand like part of me wants to go fucking live in the forest and not and grow my own food
Just
and it
check
doesn't
out.
matter what you guys. Yeah, the
Yeah.
place is on fire, but like I'm okay. That's all that's the best
Mm-hmm.
I can do. I'm Sabine half the time, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm just like I'm hungry and now I have food. Life is good.
Yeah. I Yeah, God, I sympathize with that sort of like burnt out cynicism where it's like it was on fire when I got here. It just seems to be getting worse. Why should I bother?
Yeah.
And to bring it back to role playing games, to bring it back to like what's bringing us together, I don't think you should ever undersell your ability to tell a story that's meaningful to someone
Mm,
and like what that connection could do for someone. Because if
mm,
someone's out there, like, why do we make art? Like, isn't I'm forgetting the exact quote, but like the whole idea of like we need engineers, we need mathematicians, we need physicists, we need those people that like build the framework of the world that we live in. But if we don't then fill that world with art, what are we building it for?
mm.
The never undersell the ability for you to tell a story that when someone gets home and they're feeling shat upon, they're feeling like, why should I wake up tomorrow? There is no point. Your story might be just that little bit of kindling and spark that keeps their heart going so they can see a next day. Like, we are humans, we need connection and community, and these games are part of how we can do connection and community. So tell that story that is borrowed, is stolen, is whatever. Tell that story that you feel burns inside you. It needs to get told because there's someone that needs to hear it.
Woof. Clip that. We're not
I
on
just,
Twitch, but
I, because it's so we're all tired. We all think we can't do anything, but
mm,
if we don't do anything, then we fulfill the goal of the evil people.
yes.
You know, evil thrives when good people do nothing. Then you just have to keep yelling and shouting and screaming, singing, dancing. You have to keep doing something so that at a certain point, it does change.
And it doesn't have to be screaming and yelling. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes it has to be screaming and yelling,
Sometimes it
but
has to be, but it doesn't, it could be hugging, it could be crying, it could be lifting each other up,
and
anything like that.
that wins. That
Yeah.
wins. All right, here's six angry assholes holding up signs
Yeah.
yelling about hell, and here's 1,000 people having a fucking weird
Yeah.
costume dance party. Two wolves live inside of you. Which one are you
Hmm.
feeding? Who's
I
having more fun? Who's living life better? Who's, fuck.
I had
Uh,
these political discussions with a close friend from college. He actually was like one of the people that helped me start day 20. And what when we got into this like idea of censorship and what should we do with like bad ideas and toxic ideas and like dangerous ideas.
mm,
And I know he pulled it from somewhere, but I don't know where he pulled it from, but it's just a quote that now lives in my head. The best defense against bad speech is more speech.
interesting.
The best defense we have isn't necessarily to like criminalize the act of dangerous types of speech. It is to make sure that the people who are speaking danger are so quiet by comparison to the deafening, resounding, constant, joyful chorus of everyone else supporting each other that who could constantly give a fuck? that little hateful bigot is drowned out by the noise of love.
I I fuck that speaks to me. I fucking love that. I don't know if it's 100% true, but
Yeah,
I want it to be true. Like
it's a
I
hopeful idea that I need in my heart so that cynical Jack doesn't take over.
yeah, yes. I that is true in 90% of your environments.
Hmm.
Like I think that um there's a fundamental imbalance in like we're not just standing on boxes in the public square anymore. You
Right.
know,
Yeah, yeah.
like
Oh, yeah. And that comes with all the nuance it needs. I hope everyone listening, I
oh,
hope you
just
understand that like it's there are complicated, fuzzy gray grounds that need to be figured out and examined and
yeah.
regulated and things like that. But I
Anyone,
think
I mean, anyone who doesn't agree has left an angry comment and left already, so we're cool.
yeah.
Uh,
See you.
keep your politics out of my game about overthrowing the power structures of the current. Like, oh,
Star Wars
cool. Yeah.
wasn't political. Did you look at the Empire?
Oh God, they're so just that's I it's they're it's dumb. It's just dumb.
X-Men's never been
Uh
political until they remade the 90s show.
and what are you talking about? You're you're not the rebels.
You're not
You're not the rebels.
It's hilarious to me. It's
You're a
media literacy or lack thereof is such a crime on our.
and they're
Oh,
victims of it.
yes.
There is a pointed
Mm-hmm.
policy of keeping us dumb and
Yep.
uninformed,
Yeah. Yeah.
so we can be taken advantage of straight up.
Yeah.
Um,
1000%.
give me a D10.
Yep. Back to the roll table. What are we talking
We're
about
doing a
here?
magic item. So this is the one where number matters, kind of.
Okay. I got an 8.
Eight, pretty good, pretty good, pretty good. It's not a vestige that's a gun, but adaptable wax mimics
Ooh.
seals, aids in forgery, and resealing opened missives undetected.
Oh, I kind of love that. Okay. So this is not a Void thing. Void doesn't Void has like forgery kit stuff, but like I between assets
This
and
is a void thing.
allies,
It's all void
it's
thing.
it's almost a Void thing. But between assets and allies and items and objects, this character took a left turn and I'm really enjoying where it wound up. So now I'm picturing Jack like what game am I playing? I don't know, but I want to win. And it's a thought like he's gone postal literally. He works in like a post office or he's a message courier. That's his day job. And he's got this adaptable wax. And so every message that he's currying, he's opening it, he's reading it, and he's restamping it. He's making sure that he knows everything before anyone else knows. And maybe sometimes he's doing just those like maybe it was an ink blot. It could have been the fountain pen messed up or the quill broke and it splotched this little thing. Errors that are just deniable enough to having human intent in them, but could have ramifications to keep the game slightly tilted, at least if not in his favor, in Chaos's favor. So no one else is getting their plans happening.
Perhaps a secret message that is not inked but embossed upon a page.
Yes. Oh yeah. Way to bring it back.
See what you actually, I think that might have been during the break, but
And then it was
check,
during the break. But yeah, if you know, you know. And I'll throw a page number out there for anyone who's is like confused if they know or not.
flash the cover. I mean, you can let them.
Oh,
You can let 'em know.
I was forgetting. Yeah, this book on good old Cyborg on page 27. You should give that page a thorough look at.
Cyborg, Morkborg, everything coming out of those guys are they're art objects. It might not be your cup of tea for like a TTRPG campaign
Mm-hmm.
experience. No, that's all subjective. But like, woo, is it a cool thing that exists in the world? Because they got
These
together and made it.
these are art books. Like I would have these on my shelf just to appreciate like the artistry and like the level of care and intent and intentionality that went in to like some of the pages in here
Yeah.
that are just like they break the rules, but because they know the rules really well, they know how to break them in terms of like layout and graphic design and narrative and all these things. And I'll also say I'm crossing the streams a little bit, but you brought up the idea of like reality versus game balance.
Hmm.
These games have one of the best ammo systems I've ever seen.
Oh,
If
interesting.
you shoot a gun, so like you got a number of bullets, right? You never keep track of bullets, keep track of mags. And if you shoot your weapon at the end of the combat, you roll a dice. If it was an auto fire, if it was a spray and pray, you roll a smaller dice. If you roll a 1 or a 2, that mag is now empty. So
Mm.
mark off that mag. And you just keep track of mags. You don't keep track of exact numbers of bullets. So it gives this like very like, did I fire 4 shots or 5? Like it gives you that like that ineffable quantity of ammo that's perfect for dramatic tension. And like when you fumble, when you roll a 1, you might run out of ammo. That's one of the results. So like mid combat, like crap, you gotta reload. Like I love that system because it takes this kludgy, awful mechanic of tracking ammo and buying ammo and turns it into a very cool narrative that's super easy to find and use.
I like that. If you're struggling with a problem and you're trying to like homebrew your way out of it, or you're designing a fantasy game,
Mm-hmm.
whatever rung of the ladder you're at, zoom out and start thinking about like what's the right level of abstraction here.
Yes.
That often helps me kind of like resolve. Okay, I don't want infinite, like never counting this, not having a rule feels bad. Counting these feels bad.
Mm-hmm. Where's
What
the
level?
middle?
Where's the middle?
Mm-hmm.
It's all an abstraction at some point, and you can go down a fucking rabbit hole of like what is it, G gamist and simulationist and
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah.
There's a
Lots of
theory.
schools of thought. Yeah.
There's a yeah, you can get into arguments with it, but like there's not one answer. It's like what's the answer for this ammo for this game? Maybe for
Yes.
tonight, maybe for
Yeah.
this fight. You know, like
And
yeah, I'll get off
that's
my
a great
soapbox.
point. That's a great point that doesn't get said enough in like homebrew and game design circles is that the notion of a perfect game is already an impossibility.
Yes,
You know, your favorite flavor could be chocolate and somebody else hates it. Like you will never find a game that is all things to all people. However, you could find ways of making your game perfect for your people.
mm,
And that's really all it needs to be.
yeah. And I always go a step further. Like you love chocolate, you don't want to eat it every night,
Yeah. Do
right?
something
Like
different.
do
Change it
something.
up.
Yeah, throw some salt in there once in a while.
Yeah.
See what that's. It's good.
One people who follow me on TikTok will know I will always have like a nice little healthy level of salt towards Pathfinder, certainly 1E, a little bit towards 2E, although I'm liking it more and more. But that like my idea of oh that system is not for me, that's not my peanut butter
Mm,
gives me when I examine why, it gives me a lot of good ideas for what I do like and what I do want to lean into. So play games you end up not liking because in not liking it, figure out why. You will learn, oh, I don't like it because this mechanic works this way and that makes me feel such and such. Examine what you don't like as much as what you do like because you need both of those to really find your niche as like a game designer even from a GM perspective, like, oh, running that session felt bad. Why did it feel bad? Oh, because of this, this, and this. That something that is a skill I need to develop, or is that just a style of play that I don't like? And then refine it.
very insightful. I like that a lot. Um, okay, we're gonna switch hats. This was like the character creation side. We're gonna go over to the
Yeah.
dungeon master side. Is there any other like player centric input on Jack we wanna make before we literally turn the page here?
Ooh, I don't think so. Is there anything you can think of?
I don't know that we need to. I'm
Okay.
giving you the opportunity because this is your guy. But I feel like we have a pretty well developed.
Yeah.
Well,
I
yeah.
would I would say that like if we just to give like a little a fun idea of like seeing how system agnostic this tool set is.
Mm,
If I was playing 5e with this character, I'd be going rogue, probably mastermind
mm.
as subclass. If I was playing thirsty sword lesbians, absolutely the I am forgetting the name of the playbook and I'm so sorry, but the one that wears there's literally one that wears a mask that like it talks about bottling up your emotions and at some point if you reach there's literally a feelings meter and if your feelings meter gets high enough you rip the mask off you have this big blow up scene and everyone gets a string on you everyone learns something important about you and then your feelings reset to zero you had that sort of toxic blow up where your feelings have nowhere else to go you can't stuff them down anymore blows up. I feel like this would be that character where like maybe there's a scene with like Tansy and it's just mask off, blows up. It's just like, why do you want to be ordinary? Why are you content with being just a shitty little kid? And it's just this horrible moment that like maybe they have a falling out. Maybe there's something that needs to be repaired in that relationship. But I think that playbook speaks to like this charlatan, I am the lies I tell people, not my true self, that kind of character. I think the spirit of that character is in that playbook.
That feels right to me. No notes.
No
Um,
notes. But yeah, let's do some
um,
GM stuff.
let's do a little world building. We're gonna roll 4d6. You can do that all at once, or we can do it one at a time. Player's choice.
4d6. Are we going for a total or
No, we're gonna do this. There's
okay?
4d6 tables in front of me.
Gotcha. Okay, then I am gonna do first d6 a one.
Hold on. There's no good or bad here now. Antagonistic organization, a faction that does not like us. The King's Seekers, investigating knights pursuing justice in the name of long dead king.
Ooh, very cool. Which page is this on so I can follow along
I'm
too?
on page 40 now.
Page
They're
40.
yeah, they're two-page spreads. So we're still in the
Oh, it's the second page of Charlatan. Gotcha, gotcha,
yeah,
gotcha,
it's
gotcha.
it's the charlatan. It's just the
I'm a silly. I'm a silly. Yes,
it's
I
a
forgot there's
yeah,
two pages for them. Brilliant. Oh, that's cool. I love that justice is in quotes. That's so fun. And then
that's that gives you
mhm,
some room to work with, some strings as
yeah.
you say. Like yeah.
I also like this long dead king. So it's like it's not even it's this like weird inquisitorial force left over. Yeah, very cool. I like that.
I like taking things one step further in world building and like this is vestigial, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is this way because of some shit that happened centuries ago that like the average commoner on the street might not even be able to tell you much about, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
we don't know why we do this festival anymore. We don't know that it's keeping the seal sealed, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
keeping the great evil at bay. It's just a party that we've been doing since
Yeah.
our grandparents' day. Like I always love stuff like that. Uh,
uh Leaving blank space in world building is so I think not just fun but vital
yes.
because front story can be one of the most powerful things you or a player or anyone does at a table. Front story is incredible. I love it.
There's the people who don't like the concept of what I'm doing here. Like my impulse is like, no, no, no. It's all it's a way less. It's less than you think. Like it's
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
no, no, no. It's blanks. It's all yeah. There's a lot of gaps. Because it's hard to make that sound appealing unless you're already buying
Mm-hmm.
into it.
Yeah. And
Um,
in terms of attaching this to Jack, maybe the King Seekers are like maybe they're the one kind of weird esoteric inquisitorial force that would notice those little things he's mucking with in the forgeries that
uh,
would be like something's afoot. And so like they've started showing up at like couriers' offices and they've started asking questions that let him know like, oh, I maybe need to be a little more chill. Yeah, I
and it's
like
just because these guys are like crazy, like paranoid.
anyone
So,
else would look at them and be like, why are you thinking this is anything? There's nothing here. But they're not, you're not paranoid unless someone's actually coming to get you. Like, turns out they're what would have been a mistake is actually real because there's Jack doing Jack things.
I love that. Okay, rival or enemy. We're gonna do a D6 for NPC.
Other side of the spectrum got a six.
Six. Moon-eyed Magdula, fortune teller giving fake readings, mixed with flashes of true divination.
Oh, interesting. This is cool. Oh, rivals. I was gonna say, like, is this an ally or is it a rival or enemy? Oh,
And I mean, there's blank space in this. Isn't like BBEG. Could be,
yeah, 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 yeah. This
but
is. I wonder if this is like, is this somebody that saw past the lie? Like, this is something I always think is interesting. Is does your enemy know that they're your enemy?
hmm.
Like, is Moon Eye Magdala like is she gunning for me, or is she just doing what she's doing and I hate her? Like, like,
And honestly, that's a really nice like counterpoint to this like lovable kid who stole our stuff, who's like our in our conception in the live version of our persona, that's our enemy, but she's really our best friend. And this person thinks maybe we're coworkers. Maybe we're dating. What
Hmm.
the fuck? Like, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's just like they see through you and you hate that.
Yeah, I think what's happening is maybe this is where like spare coinage is going. I don't think Jack trusts like gambling and stuff. Like if Jack gambles, it's to put on a facade and like act like a gambler to get in with the gamblers. I think where his big money losses go is going to her table because he like did it on a lark one time and got like something good and he's been chasing that high. But now every time she just tells him more insightful bullshit about him and he hates it. It's like I'm not I don't want to know about me. I already hate me. I want to know about like what's that lord doing? What's the horse should I bet on like the next time that I'm having to gamble so that I can actually win money at it? Like is trying to get something good out of this relationship and she's just being the worst without realizing it.
Because she's you, right?
Yeah.
She's cold. It's like a liar
Mhm.
hates a liar.
Yeah. Or
And she's
or
cold
she's
reading
even
you. She's
or
good at
she's
it.
even being genuine. Is she's
Oh yeah.
like maybe she's like this is for your own good and like no, I hate that. I hate this. I don't want my own good. I want what I think is good.
I want to win. I
I
don't
want
want
to
to
win. Yeah.
grow and learn.
Yeah. Exactly. I don't want to grow. I want to win.
Oh God. This is great. There's a point where it's like, we could probably stop, but let's push our luck here. D6, evocative location.
Evocative locations. Another six.
Another six. And I will say these are often like front runner for containers for other people's backstories. These are like the easiest thing to connect to other things sometimes. But
Nice.
the Moonlit Carnival, oof, traveling circus where everything is magic and very little is as it seems.
Oh, is this where Moon Eye Magdala is from?
Feels like it.
It feels like it
Feels
because
like it.
like one of those tensions in like running like any sort of campaign is travel versus touchstones, where like if you're
Uh-huh.
running all over the map, how do you keep finding the characters you want to interact with? It has to be like increasingly more Deus Ex circumstance. Whereas if it's a traveling carnival, there's always a reason Moon Eye Magdala shows up at the right time to either offer like a nice little twist of the knife or a plot point that's like, oh, finally something useful.
Right. And as a mechanism, because we're on the dungeon master side now. Like, give
Mm-hmm.
me that recurring character that like you have a relationship. This is a trusted source, even if you hate them. Maybe especially if you
Yeah.
hate them, right? And like I love the idea that like she keeps turning up like a bad penny. Maybe that's an aspect of like the divination that works for her. She knows where you're going.
Yeah.
Can't get away
Yeah.
from her.
Every time she just comes right back.
Right. Well, I can't quit you. Um there and then there's like, I don't know, anything could be in a circus. You go like, what's in
Yeah.
this tent? Like, oh, boo, give me a
There's
minute.
so
Oh,
there's
something
so
cool.
many background slash archetypes that like, oh, a circus? Yeah, I've either worked there, been there, went there. Like there's lots of opportunities to attach to another PC when you're doing those sort of like session zero-y, how do we know each other kind of things.
Yeah. Love a good carnival. All right, D6. It's gonna give us
Thematic monster. A three.
hags. This fits changeling pretty well. That's a different
Mm-hmm.
like interpretation of changelings, I guess.
Yeah.
Changeling, right? Changelings. That's what
It's
the
so random like ancestry quibble that I
yep,
have.
yep.
That's so weird. Is that like PF2E has changelings as like the progeny of hags, and
And
they
then and
all
that's like the Celtic mythology version, right? Like of like
yeah.
okay.
But what confuses me is they don't have shapeshifting abilities, and that's such a like even the name changeling.
Well, it is
That's
like the
that
switch. They look like the kid, right? They change once and then they like mature, right? And then they're the hag or something.
yeah, and
In
that's the
in the
yeah.
maybe not Galarian, but in like
I think that's the
mythology.
Pathfinder lore is that at some point, like a changeling could be awakened and change into a hag, and that's where
Mm.
the changeling name comes from. And they are always the signifying mark is that they have heterochromia, where
Mm.
one eye is whatever wasn't the hag, and then the other eye is of the hag. So they're always marked by color based on the type of hag. The color of the iris is what type of hag is their lineage. Um,
Again, if you don't like Pathfinder 2e because you don't want crunchy stuff, go get source books, man. Because Galarian
mhm.
is incredible. You don't gotta touch the rules to gain
Yeah.
a ton of cool inspiration from Pathfinder.
And
Um,
I will like when I look at like if I wanted to write a campaign setting, how would I do it? Paizo has some fantastic gazetteers, fantastic player guides. Like
Mm.
I one thing I'm gonna quibble here. The missed opportunity that WotC has constantly evaded to their detriment, I think, to the detriment of like their published adventures, no player guides. Because with every Paizo adventure, there's like, oh, we're going to play Strange Aeons. Here's the Strange Aeons player guide. And we're going to play Giant Slayer. Here's the Giant Slayer player guide. And it's this quick little pamphlet that's like, here's the basics of the setting that we're starting in. Here's some hooks for how your character would fit in there and who they are and why they're there. Here's some character. The problem with Pathfinder is that there's so many options you could easily whiff. Oh, I picked this thing and it's never going to come up in campaign because I just picked it wrong.
Yeah.
Right? The classic like ranger, natural explorer, favored terrain complaint.
Yeah.
The player guides are there specifically to say, here are like enemy types that are good. Here's terrain types that are good. Here's features that you might want to go. Here's even feats that are specific to the adventure. Like, it's just such a good idea of taking care of so much of that session zero conversation with the equivalent of handing someone a booklet or a PDF and email and being like, here, make your character using this. If you've got questions, we can flesh them out more, like
Yes.
in a conversation.
Yes. And it's like it's the right level of detail. It's like, it might be good if you knew swamp lore,
Yeah.
like whatever,
Yeah.
like, whatever the
Yeah.
specificity is, like, these are the languages that might come up, like
It's,
I always do that. Like, oh,
yeah.
you speak Dwarvish? Sorry, like, no one's
Mm-hmm.
in the party going to speak that. Okay, yeah, no one. Aquin, we're not going underwater today. Sorry,
Right.
but you can respect.
It was such a running gag. This happened on, so I'm a huge fan of the Glass Cannon podcast, Glass
Mm,
Cannon Network. It's a huge running gag in their current campaign in Gatewalkers that like no one took First World lore, and it is the most applicable lore to like the parts of the adventure they're in right now. And it's
yeah,
just Troy will constantly say, "Did you roll some First World lore?" And everyone just rolls eyes, guffaws, and moves on. It happened with us. It happened on Tales Does Tales on our Monday game. First dungeon, Sunless Citadel. All of like the clues and little lore bits are all written in Draconic. Not a soul took Draconic in the party, so it was just like, well, you would know this. Close the book, throw it away. Like it's such a gag that people whiff on those. Like, if I had just known one person could have covered this need for the purposes of the campaign, just make little player guides. Just do something like that. If you are publishing adventures, do that. At least like do a section at the front that's like, here's some guidance for player creation so that your character, like your group, if they're making characters for this campaign, are set up for success.
yes, yes. One Saltmarsh does that not super well,
I've
but
yeah,
somewhat.
I've heard that it has a little bit of a primer where like here are some good things to
Yeah,
do.
it's like,
Yeah.
they're fishermen. Like, maybe you
And
worked on the docks, like,
it had its own backgrounds. It had that whole suite of like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
nautically themed backgrounds that was really cool.
Yeah. But that's like the exception to the rule.
Yeah.
All right, give me a D20. The swingiest
D,
device.
the
You can never
swingiest.
have enough plot hooks. This is kind of like a giant pile when you don't know they zigged when they should have zagged or something.
Yeah. Ooh, I was gonna say we never actually talked about like how hags connect to Jack or could. I'm just
Oh,
thinking like uh we're in this realm, like he's got connections to divination. Maybe in desperation, he goes searching for bigger answers, but from hags, and that leads to a complication. It could be one of those things that like mid-campaign it creates a complication, and then late campaign you resolve the complication. Like the curse comes to fruition, the hag comes begging, like comes asking for the payment, all that kind of stuff. Could be a very interesting way of creating an arc that the audience fully gets to see instead of it just being all backstory stuff coming to later.
we were talking about earlier today how like a devil's bargain is like such a grand thing, and that can happen like dungeon master to player, but we can also like sink that down into like hags are good for that.
Yeah,
Probably a boring fight. Great, great
great story.
interactions. Great
Yeah.
story.
Mm-hmm. I got a 10 on this
10
D20.
on the D20. Occult is creating a tremendous zone of truth, and without white lies, the town will soon destroy itself.
I love this.
We kind of have left those King Seekers like dangling, and this feels like them.
You were as in they're creating the zone of truth.
I mean, maybe, yeah. Or I mean, what or the opposite, I guess.
Oh, my first instinct, I was also at the King Seekers thing. My first instinct was that the King Seekers know about this and think it's a good idea, but are not directly involved.
Ah, they're like
And
into it. They're supporting it.
they're
Okay.
supporting it, but they're not, they don't have all their hands in that pie. They're just like, they're just see it happening and are letting it happening.
Hmm.
And maybe this is one of those like Jack has to confront, like Jack and party have to confront the King Seekers and convince them of the value of lies. Convince them that like, look, we can agree that maybe there's some justice to be had by reducing the big lies, but we all need a little bit of wiggle room with the truth. And if you let this happen, it's going to go bad real fast. And like they don't have to be an ally, but like having that scene where it's this like these two diametrically opposed, having that all stories, if you don't have triangles of tension set up in your plots,
Hmm.
do it because it really adds depth. There's a reason that the Orwellian mega governments focus on a triad. They focus on three nations being opposed to each other instead of just two, because it creates chaos and change and all of these things that add to it. And while there it's being used as a tool of control, here it can be used as a tool of good, deep narrative because two enemies having to do enemy of my enemy and like there being tension there can be brilliant, or allowing the narrative to be like maybe the negotiation doesn't go well, you don't convince the King Seekers, and now they want to actually help out this cult build their zone of truth. So now you've got even a harder fight ahead of you because you've turned a neutral party into an antagonistic party.
I love it, and that makes it way more interesting story wise, but also like gameplay wise.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like okay, what are we supposed to do here? Kill everybody? Okay, okay, cool. Like
Yeah.
that's fun once in a while. I'll turn my brain off. But like, what are we gonna do here? What are we supposed to do here? I don't know. I know what's happening. I know what's gonna
Yeah.
happen if you don't intervene. I don't have there's nothing in my I have a bunch of notes written down here. None of them say what you're supposed to do.
There's no supposed to do. That's for books.
As for books, that's not for games.
Yeah.
Um, well, dope. That was an awesome session with a great political philosophy discourse in the center of it, the creamy middle.
Yeah.
Um,
That was the spicy mayonnaise on top of our world
a
building
little
session.
habanero jelly in there. Any final thoughts on Jack the Charlatan?
No final thoughts on Jack the Charlatan other than I think this would be a fun character to play. Uh, I do have final thoughts on the supplement. This is a very cool. You mentioned third-party tools. This one's bumping up in my repertoire of third-party tools that I need to
Yes,
use because
yes.
this was easy. It was organic. It gave us lots of ways to go in, and I think what's nice is you pointed it out with the Velvet Venue, that idea of like if you just read part of the prompt and you've already got ideas, then the prompt is doing its job for you. Even if you disagree with the rest of it, it's already doing its job for you.
Yeah, and that's in I mean, I struggled to come up with thousands of these, but the front matter got the most passes because it's like
Mm-hmm.
how instructive do I really want to be? And I mean, I'll leave it up to the reader to decide if I did the right level of resolution for them.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the big screen. But yeah, I mean, my greatest enjoyment is watching people use this thing that I've made in ways that I did not anticipate.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because it's not like here, Ryan built a cool thing and you should use it in your game. It's like Ryan built a cool thing for you to use to make cool things for your game. Like it's
Yes. Yeah.
I want you to rip it open and steal spare parts from it and take the catalytic converter and put it into some other weird hybrid thing that you
Yep.
were making.
A bit.
Um,
Turn it into a flux capacitor. Yeah.
exactly.
I have a
Um,
question. Are there any options on the tables that like cross pollinate between different archetypes, or are they all completely standalone? So like the carnival we rolled, does the moonlit carnival show up in anybody else's tables?
so only accidentally by name. I
Okay.
actually tried really hard to not repeat myself.
Mm-hmm.
Sure are a lot of rhymes in there though. If you go looking for them, like there is, I mean, there's a fortune teller archetype, right? So
Yeah.
like you can absolutely. I did not want to. I felt if it was too explicit, those overlays, then one, I would
It
have
would
to
feel
cross
constraining.
build a giant cross index thing
Yeah.
or like hyperlink it all, which I don't, I
Hmm.
mean, there was a version of like before there were 50 of them, there was a version that did more of that. It's right there. Once in a while, it's a little clearer that it's like,
Hmm.
hey, this is a capital letter or something.
Yeah.
I wanted, as much as possible, I wanted to create opportunities and not instructions. Again, like that instructive part of
Yes.
it, I
Yeah.
struggled with. So like, well, 1,000%, you can get fucking Charlie Day and connect all of the whole
Pepe
book.
Sylvia, the whole book. Yeah.
And
I like
like,
you brought up fortune teller. I like the idea. What if Moon Eye Magdala wasn't an NPC? Someone rolled a fortune teller archetype. It's like, all right, we're changing the name to whatever your character name is. We're rivals now, but we're in this party together.
yes, yes. And it's as modular. That's almost like too big of a word for it, but like they're like Lego bricks,
Yeah.
right? Like, oh, this weird little control panel, like, I don't know what it, oh, it fits, if this fits on your thing. Like the idea of like
Hmm.
4 or 5 people sitting down doing this simultaneously, those connections can't help but form, or the
Yes.
human mind can't help but form them because that's what
Exactly.
brains are for.
Yeah.
Um,
No, it makes me want to do this with a group of people because we already do that. So like going back to Cyborg and Morkborg, there's roll tables for character creation here that aren't just like the mechanical, they're also like the story.
hmm,
And we just do that naturally. We like, oh, you're into that. That was your quirk. That could feed off of my quirk. Or like we're already in a context of wanting to tell stories together where we're looking for those connections. A book like this is going to really it's going to make that explosive. Haha, but I'm Tish. It's going to really crank that level of communal creativity up.
yeah, it was going to be called Connections early on, but that felt like a sociology textbook or something. But I settled, I mean, the art actually got me to explosive, but like this is a chemical reaction, right?
Yeah.
This is just these are like reagents, and you're the oxidizer or whatever. I don't know. I haven't done chemistry in 20 years, but like,
Quantum tunneling. There's an electron floating around somewhere. Who knows?
I can, yeah, I can wax poetical about quanta much easier. This is a gigantic book of potential waveforms,
Yeah.
and you're the observer, and you're going to collapse them into points.
Oh, that there were 10 people that appreciated that joke, and I'm one of them. That was
Good. One of us.
perfect.
Um, Yeah, no one
Feynman, my
understands it, so have
hero.
fun with it. Quantum physics, everybody.
Oh,
All right, well, this was an awesome time. I'm sure you have other things to do with your life because we've gone very long. Viewers at home, thank you for hanging out with us.
wax
Remind the
poetic.
folks, some of, we don't have time to mention all of the cool shit that you do because you're everywhere doing everything. Where can the folks find you, and what's on deck? What's coming up for Matt?
Easiest place to find me, Tales of Initiative on Twitch or YouTube, and day20.org for all of my published products and like freelance partnered materials on there. What's coming up is if you go to that website, you'll see a little Discord at the top. You can click that link. There are 2 games in development. One is a tarot-based deck builder RPG called The Beckoning Dream, leans into the surrealism and the divination, the oracular idea of like using cards to tell stories. Think Magic the Gathering meets actual tarot reading, and you will get a good idea of what's happening with that game. We're also building, me and my friend, my co-star Conlon on Tales of Initiative are building a game called Mork Soul, which Mork Borg, it's meant to be inspired by The Expanse and Dead Space, and that sort of like that action horror vibe of sci-fi stuff. It is a Mork Borg riff put into sci-fi. There is ship-to-ship combat. There is weird, crunchy, strange, necromantic energies permeating an entropic galaxy that is doomed to spiralize into oblivion. But you and your found family on your ship are trying to survive and eke out a living amongst the dead stars. So we got 2 games coming down the pipeline. You can join the Discord for more information, playtesting chances on that. We've been having so much fun playtesting those already, and we're actually going to be playing Mork Soul on Tales of Initiative today. So I'm super excited for that. I don't know when this comes out, but at some point you can go check out our YouTube and you'll see a Mork Soul game, so you can see how that plays if you'd like to know more.
Awesome. Do all of those things. You've seen him in action, and that was cold. That was blind, folks.
That was a
Imagine
lot of fun.
imagine what Matt can do with some preparation and some play testing. Um, Thank you again, Matt. Thank you everybody for watching. I had a blast. I hope you did too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. This was super fun.
Heck yeah, anytime. Thanks everybody. We'll see you again soon. Till then, be kind, have fun. Bye.
Bye.